Guys are going to hate this one, but we could turn our 2D friend into their mirror image by rotating their entire body around a line. For a brief period halfway through, most of their body was missing from their 2D world, except for the vertical line around which they were being rotated. A four-dimensional creature could turn us into our mirror image by rotating us in the fourth dimension around a plane that cuts through our body. For a brief period halfway through our rotation, most of our body would be missing from the third dimension, except for the vertical slice around which we were being rotated. And that would be quite a frightening sight for anyone here to witness.
Let us talk about this mirror world and how each mirror cuts us or shifts us to parallel realities where we experience a mandala effect. And we're going to learn these truths through Megan's art. Let's begin at the female at 6 o'clock that has a dress near the 7 o'clock female inside a mirror screaming with the name Magi. So the female that is holding a balloon has a woman being whipped by a man, like she is in a tower. Think of the movie Tangled, a female being kept in a tower under narcissistic control. From there, the female grows, and this growth takes her to the number 3, which is possibly the third chakra. From there, the female grows even larger and goes through a dual reality. There's 2 females under the armpits of the main female in the center, which is Megan. And on one hand is a dog and the other is a bird. On her head is a mirror where the face is inverted sideways. And then behind the mirror is a face that is right side up. Now notice the flower there at her forehead. And notice the bird looking at the flower. This is going to be very important. Under the armpit is a kingdom, and there are the mathematical compass or square over the mouth at 9 o'clock of a female, and then over the head of the female. So something happened to the female, and above that Magi circle at 7 o'clock, there is King Solomon, who came forward in Megan's art to tell us that the female, the divine female, was trapped. And we know this because, or at least we believe this because when you watch shows like Tangled, where the female was trapped, or Cinderella, where the female was trapped, there's always a story of a female like Snow White being trapped. And this female gets released from this prison through a myriad of ways. Tangled escaped. Cinderella found a fairy godmother, and this is a communication that whatever happened to us, the Magi is Mary Magdalene. Magdalene is the master magician. King Solomon said that the female was trapped for a reason, that there was some kind of covert threat against the female. So because of this, the female had to be sent to a mirror world, and somehow we were very young in spirit and had to grow in painful ways. Notice the face that is in the mirror next to the flower, and then the female behind the mirror, and the bird looking at the flower. Now, I took some mushrooms once and saw our reality, and I saw exactly what we're doing here and how it works. So notice that flower. That flower is very, very important because this is what I saw. I saw a raven, and the raven looks at a nucleus with the atom and a cell around it. So there are 6 circles around a circle in the center. Our reality shifts from circle to circle, and we experience a cutting or mirror or parallel reality where reality shifts. But at a certain precipice, our reality gets eaten by the raven. So I don't know if this is good or bad, but according to Megan's art, when we are ready and we have grown our soul from a little munchkin short of understanding to a tall, adept spirit, I don't believe that being eaten by a bird is a bad thing, because I know in alchemy that when you are eaten by a god or a dragon or a bird, it reflects that you have entered the halls of God. You have entered into godhood. So I want you to keep that in mind when you're looking at these pieces, but also keep this in mind when you're looking at the bottom half of this piece of art and the top half of this piece of art, talking about a cutting off of an old reality and our old self. This piece speaks of the realm that we leave behind. We leave behind a piece of ourself that we don't realize is still left there. The piece of ourself that we leave behind is eaten by vampires, the rats. But we don't experience that death. We don't experience it as a death. We shift our consciousness to a new body or a new timeline or a parallel reality. Because in this lower reality that was left behind, and there's a shot over there at 7:00 and some strange P, the letter P like parasite, and then a Christ with the cross and this rat. It's as if when we shift timelines, we leave a piece of ourselves in that timeline, and that self gets eaten or killed like a Christ on a cross. However, we don't experience this, and this is why Christ says, if you follow me, you will not experience death. Though you are dead, yet you live. But Megan's art is teaching us that there's a dark side to this shift, and that is when we do shift, there's a part of ourselves left behind, which is devoured. So there seems to be some technology where the vampire energy found a way to use our souls, our consciousness, and our body to do something to us, and we don't experience it. We're able to shift. So Megan, in this piece, your friend Will came forward to give you a friendly kiss, and your grandmother, Monita, and other energies came forward to say, look, we bounce from an old world to a new world, like a dimensional train, and we've lived many lives, and our consciousness goes to higher and higher dimensions the more we grow, and our physical body doesn't really matter. So leaving our body behind doesn't seem to matter. It's as if we bounce our consciousness from one body to the next body to the next body. And your grandmother has the letters or number E and 5. And this seems to be that the earth itself is graduating or shifting into like a 5th density frequency. And the old earth is ruled or governed by beings that do not shift. And it seems like we are the only ones who do shift, because the beings that are left in the world of the dead, they're monstrous. There's the vampire, there's some alien that looks like a draconian, there's the jinn, and there's some death, dark energies that were left behind, but not for us. For us, we are ascending, and this ascension is beckoning us and asking us to have faith that this ascension isn't cruel or evil. It's really about growing ourselves from a time where we have forgotten, like the Mary Magdalene or the Magi. She was the master magician, and she was trapped. So there's a female that's trapped, and I'm not sure how the story goes, but somehow the female was trapped, and this trap kept her in like a tower or a castle like Cinderella, and she had to experience a painful narcissistic reality in order to grow herself again. But once she's grown, according to your reading, she will literally shift to a rainbow light body, and this rainbow light body will ignite not only herself but the entire world, and she will be able to create her own world. King Solomon is saying that I am a place, and Sol is sun, Oman is moon, and Solomon's temple is a place where the oracles were always kept, and the oracles were protected inside Solomon's temple. So Solomon is saying that we have to find our way back to Solomon's temple, which is shifting from the moon to the sun and going through a pole shift. So Thoth is the square and the compass, which squares our mind and squares our mouth and our emotions and our beliefs to that of God, so that we are in alignment and we are ready for these shifts, which happen like clockwork. So they happen, and we have to be prepared for it. You are going through the threefold flame. And this threefold flame is asking you to stay in perfect alignment. This means keeping your holy temple holy and full of life energy, keeping your thoughts holy and full of life energy, and keeping your beliefs and your relationships balanced and holy. Forgiveness and letting go is part of the program, because we are being asked to get ready to go through the bird's beak or the eye of the needle, which will lead us to our adepthood or our godhood. The girl at 5 o'clock, is pointing at a mirror that is made of stone. And it looks like you could scry on stone. I used to scry on wood. But some people are really good at scrying on certain elements. Some people scry in water. Some people scry in fire. You can scry by looking at the clouds. You are looking at a stone and you're scrying, but you can still scry on paper and practice on paper, but you have some connection to stones. Megan, you came here to really grow yourself, like the movie Tangled, out of a narcissistic world and into freedom, finding your true mother and father and finding your crown. You have a crown, and this crown is beautiful, and that face that is inverted over to the side like a mirror is, I think it's an understanding from Spirit, it's Spirit trying to help you understand that the world shifts constantly and we have to shift with it. We cannot be left behind, because the left behind world is full of ugly monsters and jerks, it looks like. I mean, I don't know if it's true, but that's what it looks like to me. And so you've entered the halls of Freya, and Freya is a world like Solomon. Frey is a place, and Yah is the moon. So Freya is the embodiment of a world that is not dominated by the moon. When we moved through the body of Christ, we moved through Yahshua. Yah means moon, Shua means sun. Once we moved through Yah, we went through Shua, the sun, and then we went through a flipping. Now, some people go into Solomon's temple, which is Sol, sun. And some people go to Freya or Haya or Gaia. And anytime you go into Freya, Haya, or Gaia, it is a world that dominates Yah, which is moon. We always want to end up in a place where a world that we are in is dominating the moon, which is the word Yah. So for you to be in Freya, or the halls of Freya, is a very positive sign that you have shifted past the moon energy and have entered the sun. And this sun is taking you to a rainbow light, like the name Shua is the ray of the sun. So your hair is very long and it's turned into the ray of the sun. And you have 3 parts to yourself. And these 3 parts aren't exactly balanced. The 2 females to the right and left of you are about the same size, but you're much taller in the center. So this means that the female on at 9 o'clock, your thoughts and your words need to be squared a little bit. And the female to the right looks as if your physical body needs living waters and to feed your temple living foods. When we follow a path of following living energy, it actually energizes our double. But let's also look at your piece like a timeline. The female that's being whipped, that turns into the Mary, that turns into you. These are pieces of yourself that were left in old timelines. And these old timelines, you can literally remote view them, take your power back by breathing in the power that you gave away, and thereby empowering yourself in this now time. King Solomon says it's time to set the trapped woman free, the trapped female free. And that's funny because the Dogon tribe from Africa said that a female or a planet of females is going to return and they are going to set the divine female free. And guess what her name is from the Dogon tribe? Her name is Emma Yah. So Emma Yah is a place that is dominating the moon. So Emma is a place like a sun or a star, probably Sirius B, the dog star, which you have a dog on your hand. And it dominates the moon. Anything that dominates the moon is good. All thumbs up. You don't want to go back to a place that begins with the word Yah, like Yahshua or Yahweh, because this takes us back to darkness. So Emma Yah comes to set the female free and gives us our wings to fly. This means we are being eaten by the bird. Being eaten by the bird means that we are in the halls of God, learning to fly and use our wings and use our ears, our eyes, our hands, our feet for God, for the purpose of God, because we have grown our soul tall enough. You have many symbols within your piece that are connected to Dr. John Dee. It's a documentation or a transcribe of conversations with angels, which includes amulets, mandalas, and symbols. And these are symbols that you should kind of look into because they are connected to who you are and who you will become. We will all become a temple. And as a temple, you should have a name, and you should probably rename yourself a name that reflects that you now dominate the moon. So whether you want to call yourself Freya, Emma Yah, Haya, Gaia, it's a female name that ends in Yah. And this is a place that dominates the moon. I don't believe Pennsylvania is a place that dominates the moon, but we should rename ourselves because we are now becoming a holy temple of God, which means that our energy affects the entire world and the collective. And we have to see ourselves as responsible co-creators of God. The dog on your hand is about following a divine order of God as well. We left a world behind, and we have always left a world behind. We just didn't know it. It comes like a thief in the night. And these worlds shift, and they shift 6 times. Now, the world in the center, I don't know. It always remains in the center. But we shift 6 times, and one In one of those shifts, we get eaten by the bird. And it's not a bad thing. It means that we go into the body of a god and we begin to shift into almost like Hogwarts. We enter a new kingdom. We enter a place or the halls of God where we are given our sword, our shield, and all the pieces to do the will of God. It looks also like you lift stones, like you have the ability to use your energy for anti-gravity because of the balloon that's going up, and you have these stones that are being lifted up. And these stones being lifted up are taking our mind out of heavy gravity. Gravity is what keeps our consciousness from remembering, keeps us from flying, keeps us from our power. And so as the divine female, you've got these large hands and the stones are lifting. I think that when you step into your adepthood, you might be surprised that you will be connected to Apocalypse. Zeus's twin brother was named Apocalypse, and he was given appointment to take over this realm and be the commander of gravity. Now, Apocalypse is when gravity gets lessened and we begin to remember. So these stones flying aren't just gravity, but it's an allegory of Christ resurrecting and rolling the stone away. When the stone gets removed, our female self finally finds the castle and finally finds our home with the glass slippers and the crown and our true mother and father and all of that. And the flower represents, like the movie Tangled, that we live forever. These narcissistic energies that were whipping us in the old world tried to tell us that we don't. And we were afraid, very afraid, and so we wouldn't leave the tower. But Solomon said we were in the tower for our own protection. Like who? Like Fiona from Shrek. Fiona was protected by the fierce dragon and kept in the tower for her own safety. And so once we leave the tower, we find our divine twin flame, and this twin flame, like Shrek and Fiona, find their castle, and their castle leads them to freedom, and this freedom leads to power and to many awakenings. I think those of you who get a reading from me are being really encouraged to become a scryer so that you can hear the voice of your past, present, and future through symbology. Spirit speaks through telepathy, and learning how to turn your brain into a telepathic vision, which is a television, is what scrying is. And so scrying, it doesn't just entail art. It also includes understanding symbology, numerology, and sacred geometry. So many of the symbols within your pieces really express some ancient symbols of the angels. And there's no way I could dive that deeply into understanding it because I don't understand it myself. When I look at Dr. John Dee and the symbols of the angels, it's overwhelming, the information. But you have all the time in the world to really dissect your pieces and see what the angels have to say to you, because I believe that you're connected to these angels and that you have a purpose for being here, and that is to help to set the divine female free. It's so funny that the word magi is at 7:00 when your name is Megan. And this Mary Magdalene, master magician, is connected to the mouse. So there's a story of the mouse in Armenia, and it's connected to Mount Ararat. And Mount Ararat is a place known as the Giants. And they are supposedly the place where the original Adam and Eve, before Adam was cut, live. They are connected to vampires. And I'm not sure if the story of the vampire is true, but the rats are this Christ energy that says, drink my blood and live forever, and the original race of humans that never died. They lived forever, right? So when you think of Mother Mary, Master Magician, think of Mickey Mouse. It's this rat, this mouse that is connected to Mount Ararat in Armenia. And the goddess who's there is named Haya. Now her name was changed to Gaia, but you can understand how closely that's related to Freya. But I don't think they're all the same place. Haya, Gaia, and Freya and all these places are different. They're just places that dominate the moon. Now this is your piece mirrored. Notice there's somebody in the center scrying between two stones on a piece of paper. And the divine order of God is in the center with an elephant. And there are pieces of yourself in mirror worlds. So I think this is your true world. And it's a mirror. And this is your true purpose, is to not only become a scryer, but become an alchemist and an oracle, so that you keep and continue to grow your soul and set the divine female free through knowledge. It is a time of learning currently. And you're one of the lucky ones who was able to speak to Solomon. And Solomon says he's not a person, although he could manifest as a person. He is a place. So when you are in the body of Christ, any person in the body of Christ can manifest as Christ. When you're in the body of Freya, anyone can manifest as Freya, because Freya is an invisible energy, but is also a place. Same with Solomon. And you are being trained to become a place as well, and a person, all at once. So please have hope that the only reason why we shift timelines and we experience some of the darkness is to grow our soul. And sometimes growing pains is painful. But there is a precipice when we go into the bird of the beak, and we have more freedom than we ever felt. And we feel really good, and we have power, and we don't have to experience being whipped. So I hope that gives you hope. And know that you are meant to go ahead and step into that now by balancing the threefold flame. I encourage you also to look up how to balance the threefold flame through balancing male, female, and spirit energies within you. And I think you're going to be fine. Make sure that you follow me on Mary Moses Art. And also, if you want classes on how to become a better scryer, if you subscribe on my TikTok channel, I'm going to have classes just for people who are meant to be a scryer. And you are one of them. So I hope to see you there and learn the art of talking to God within you and without you, and to know what's going on in the world without being confused. And that is the wonderful power of being an oracle and being a scryer. Thank you, Megan, for what you have to teach us. And please continue to look at your symbologies to understand that you are no longer in a prison, but that we shift timelines and we do leave a piece of ourselves behind. And we need to send healing and take our power back so that we do not experience imbalance and powerlessness. Thank you so much for your reading. And if you would like to order a reading, go to forestfairy.com.